It's Table Talk Thursdays with the Tres Amigas, Delene from Yoshea Lux, Laura, the Camochica, and Dee Dee from Dee Dee Bean. Let's talk luxury, contemporary, travel, and any other current luxury hot topics.
Happy Thursday and welcome to our first Table Talk. I am Laura, the Camochica.
I'm Delene with Yoshea Lux.
And I'm Dee Dee from Dee Dee Bean.
We are the Tres Amigas! Woo!
This series of videos, we will be covering luxury, non-luxury, handbags, travel, and anything else we feel like chatting about. I found out about Dee Dee here to my right a few months ago because I happened to be watching a live that she was doing. Dee Dee is notorious for doing a lot of lives here on YouTube, so this way we can meet a lot of other fellow YouTube content creators. She was doing a live with Miss Maria Loves Luxury, and she happened to state something in the video that led me to know that she was actually living here in the same city that I was living in, and I was very, very excited to find out that not only was there another YouTube content creator here in our home city, but also that she was Latina. And so she and I happened to reach out, and we found we had a few things in common. And by communicating with Dee Dee, she introduced me over to Delene from Yoshea Lux. And we thought, okay, well, we have to meet because the three of us are actually here within the same city. And we met back in May on Memorial Day weekend, and so we just hit it off, and we had a lot of things in common. Plus, we're in the club, we're over 50, and we've had a few YouTube meetups, and so you'll see on our channels where we've done some of our videos where we show our little shenanigans of what we're up to, where we've gone and hung out, eaten, or take you around our city. And as we got to know one another and just chit chat and hang out on our last meetup, I said, hey ladies, what do you think about doing a Tres Amigas Table Talk series? Because we actually have the luxury, the convenience of being in the same city where we can gather and just chit chat and talk about the latest hot topics in luxury, just have fun, whether it's handbags or travel or whatever. And they thought it would be a really great idea because this way we can gather, have some fellowship with one another, and just chit chat and bring you guys here into my home so you can join us. And so we look forward to you joining us on Thursdays when we release these videos. Each of us will be posting these videos on each other's channel, so be sure that you follow Delene at Yoshea Lux and that you follow Dee Dee Bean as well, because we will be posting different videos on each of our channels. So we look forward to having you join us on Thursdays for this Table Talk series with the Tres Amigas. I want to go ahead and do an introduction so you can get to know who we are, because some of you might be joining us from the other person's channel and you might not know a little bit about us. So we want to go ahead and introduce ourselves to you. I am Laura the Camochica, and I actually happen to be an Army wife. I am a Latina, and my husband is a recently retired first sergeant from the U.S. Army Reserves, where he served 36 years. And I have handbags, jewelry, shoes. I'm a collector of all things, but I also love to travel, and so I will do some travel vlogs here and there as well, just to take you around where my husband and I have been. I do have various designers that I collect from, not just like your premium designers of like Hermes or Chanel, but I also have some contemporary brands and some other luxury brands that are not as well known. I talk a lot about that on my channel. I am an only child. My husband and I have been married for 10 years. We have no children of our own, but we do have the four-legged variety. We do have a four-legged wire fox terrier dog who is 9 years old, and she is as sassy as all get out. My mother is from Mexico, so as a child I did learn Spanish. I had to communicate with my mom and my grandmother and my great aunt in Spanish, so I am bilingual. So sometimes within my videos you will hear me say a few words in Spanish, because as a Latina, that's just how we speak here,
especially here in Texas.
Yes, especially here in Texas. Amiga, thank you. That's right. Yes. It's a lot of Spanglish, so it's just in our conversation. And and especially here in Texas, whether you are Hispanic or not, you have to learn at least basic words, right? Like hola, gracias, like basic words like that.
Taco, chalupa.
Yes.
In my husband's case, ¿dónde está el cerveza?
Where's the beer? Muy importante. That's very, very important. So yeah, so that's just a little bit about myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to my amiga Delene.
Hi, my name is Delene, and I'm with Yoshea Lux. That's my channel, and I've been doing YouTube maybe 5.5 to 6 years. So if you have not visited my channel yet, make sure you guys do that. I was born in Okinawa, Japan. I lived there for about 9 years. My mom is full Okinawan, and my dad met my mom there. He was in the military, so my dad couldn't speak Japanese, my mom couldn't speak English, so my dad actually bought a Japanese book and started talking to my mom.
Aww.
And then finally they decided to get married and they had children, and that's me here. I have 2 brothers, and I lived in Okinawa for 9 years, finally moved to Guam. I lived there for about 3 years, and finally moved to the US when I was 12 years old. And when I moved to the US, we arrived in San Antonio for a little bit. I lived in San Antonio, I think, for 6 months, moved to Washington State, so I've kind of traveled around, and moved to El Paso for, I think, 4 years, and moved here to Texas when I was 17 years old, and been here since then. I am now 55 years old. I am married to a fireman. He's a chief, and he's gonna be retiring in a year and a half. He has 2 boys and I have 2 girls. We have 2 fur babies, and my house is crazy, okay? So crazy, I don't even want to be there. So that's why we're here at Laura's house. I am a grandma. I have a 5-year-old granddaughter who just started school, which is on my husband's side. And then I have my first biological grandson just a month ago. So love my grandkids. I spend a lot of time with them. I think right now that is really my passion, besides my bags and my shoes that I have. I would say they make me so happy, and I feel like my life is more complete because of them. And I am a very lucky grandma right now. So very excited that my daughter finally had a baby. She has been wanting one for 10 years, and finally she is now pregnant, and I am just head over heels for my little grandbaby. And so I'm very excited about that. And when I was younger, my first language was Japanese. I was bilingual for a long time, and when my mom passed when I was 30 years old, I kind of started losing a lot of my Japanese. So, and there's not many people who speak Japanese where I am, so it's hard for me to keep up with it, even though my oldest brother is, he speaks it fluently, and so does my sister-in-law, who he's married to. She's Japanese, and she came from Japan, and they now live here in Texas. So, but they don't live near me in Texas, so I don't get to always talk with them in Japanese. So I've lost a lot of that, but I could understand it a lot. And
sorry, I wanted to ask you a question. So is that with you? Do you understand it better than you're speaking it, than you could speak it?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could. Yeah. Yes, I could understand it more, only because there's words that I've forgotten, and when some people bring it up, then I'm like, oh, yeah, I know exactly.
Because that's how I am as well too. Is I can understand more than I can speak it. Like I don't. I speak it very, very cut. Stop and go and stop and go. Yeah. But if somebody talks to me in Spanish, I can understand it. Yeah. It comes back. Yeah. What is it, like the muscle memory? From
yes, that's the way I am basically with Japanese. But sometimes it surprises me. I'll know more than what I think I do. But also, I'm from Okinawa. And that's not the mainland where Japan is. And in Okinawa, we actually speak a different language than Japanese. Okay. So sometimes when I hear a Japanese person talking, I don't always understand some of the words that they're saying. And then I ran into an Okinawan woman, and she was speaking to me, and I felt like I knew more than what she was, what I thought I knew. So I thought that was kind of neat. So there is a different language in Okinawa than there is in the mainland Japan. So yeah. Now, my mom passed when she was 55, and because of that, of course, I lost a lot of my Japanese, and it's been really hard to keep up with it because there's not, I think I've already said that, there's not a lot of Japanese people here. Right. So, and if there is,
so you have to practice these
yes, there's more, I would say, Vietnamese and Thai that might live near me versus Japanese.
Especially in the area or the region where you were, it's you speak a different, right? It's like a different kind of language.
Yes.
And I think that's the same thing that I feel like we can say that for Texas.
Yes.
We speak Spanglish. We are Tejanos. That's what they call, our culture, because of the fact that our family is from Mexico, but we were born and raised here in Texas, and we have our own language. So I might not speak the most. I will not say the words in Spanish perfectly because it's our own slang in a way.
Texas completely has a different slang.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's funny because when people from Mexico come here to Texas, they don't like the way the Tex-Mex Spanish is. I don't speak Spanish. I've actually never been or lived in the areas where people speak Spanish, so I don't really know much of it, but I do hear sometimes the people from Mexico, they get really upset.
Yes. They do. Because they often tell me that, I used to work at a local restaurant, and when they would come in to visit, and I would ask them questions if they wanted things off the menu, being all proud of the fact that I'm speaking Spanish to them, and they would tell me, that's not how you say it. I'm like, but that's how I learned it. And so sometimes you would say words differently. Differently. I know, like, there was sometimes like how we say the cars and how they say cars are differently. I'm not even going to attempt to say it. She can, but I won't. How you say the straws, how we say it here versus how they say it in Mexico is differently. Yeah. But even though growing up, I mean, we both here from Texas. Even though growing up, the cultures that we held on to, my family held on to, are different cultures or different things that maybe Lotta did too. Yeah. So you're going to find a multitude of things here on our channel, we hope. And we hope that you will enjoy it, and everybody can find a little bit of something and everything that we have here to offer.
Absolutely.
And also, as a content creator, it is very important for us to grow. So if you guys can please subscribe to each and every one of us. If you're not subscribed to us, we would greatly appreciate that.
Yes.
And then I got to meet these beautiful women, of course, on the channels. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed myself. So yeah, good. Your turn, Dee Dee.
My turn. Hi, I'm Dee Dee Bean, and my channel name is Dee Dee Bean. So if you haven't subscribed to me, we will have all of our channels linked below in each of our videos, so you can find it very easy to subscribe to each and every one of us. We would greatly appreciate it. A little tidbits about myself is that I was born and raised here in our town, our mutual town. However, though, when I was young, I did speak a lot. I was fluent, bilingual in Spanish. However, when I went to school, it was not favorable, and I literally got, we had corporal punishment back then, and I would get spankings for speaking Spanish. So that cut my Spanish talk out of my language for many years. And it wasn't until I was in my late 30s, early 40s that I really started to speak the language. And where I come from, we're more instead of Spanglish, we talk about Tex-Mex. So those of you who more identify as far as Texas with being Tex-Mex, that's kind of more where I am. And that's one of the things that we love about each other, is the fact that even though we're both Latinas, even though we're both our families are based from Mexico, like my family often says, we were here and the river crossed us. We didn't cross the river. We were here because Texas was Mexico, and that's where my family's heritage was and is. And so we still have different dynamics and different outlooks on things. I have been married for over 30 years. We have 2 children, and we have a ton of animals, too many animals. So you will often hear the dogs barking in the background in my videos. So if you enjoy animals, you'll love my channel. If you don't, sorry. I try to cut out as much as I can. So I'm a 55-year-old granny who has rheumatoid arthritis, and when I found out that Jenny was still around, I went crazy. I totally fell into that, and that was like my gateway drug to the handbag luxury. And I started a channel, and the rest is history. The rest is history. So I do have an eclectic collection. I have a lot of different colors, a lot of different brands, and just recently, depending on when this goes out, just recently I have just ventured into the actual zip codes. I say I'm borrowing or leasing, stealing the zip codes, the higher end zip codes. So now I have Jeannie, Coach, I have Rebecca Minkoff, I have all of those, but I also have some Ferragamo, some Fendi. You might be able to see a Chanel or two, in there as well too. So yeah, these ladies have been a big influence on what my eye catches now, and it has been just a delight. So I'm so glad. Thank you so much, Laura, for thinking about this adventure that we have, and we really hope that you continue to watch each and every one of us on each of our channels, because believe me, we go crazy and get into a lot of shenanigans, and we want y'all along for the ride.
Yeah. Yes, please be sure you come and join us for this new adventure, as Dee Dee mentioned, because, and we welcome your comments. Please be sure to put some comments down below. Even give us suggestions of some topics that you would like for us to chit chat about, so we can just bounce these ideas off, because we love luxury, we love contemporary, we have certain loves for brands, but even as we've gotten together, there's things that we might not like about certain bags that we've happened to talk about. And so that's the whole beauty of this friendship here on YouTube, is because, what's beautiful to one, I might not be as fond of it, but I could always, Delene might talk me into finding a love for that particular handbag. That's the beauty of this Tres Amigas friendship, where we can just chat about these things and learn things from one another. So please be sure you come back and visit us and visit our channels and join in on the fun. The other thing too, as we were talking about, a little bit about ourselves, is the one thing that also kind of we have in common is that Delene's father was military.
My ex-husband is my father and my ex-husband.
And so, and Delene's father-in-law was military as well.
Dee. I'm Dee. I'm Dee. That's Delene. This is Laura. That's okay. But yes, my father-in-law was in Vietnam. He served 2 tours. Well, I think he's still waiting. My father-in-law was in Vietnam. He volunteered to be a Marine. And so he's a big, tough guy. He has since passed away. But the military, and plus we live in a military city. And so I have plenty of uncles and cousins and things like that have been in the military. And it is a big, big part of our culture.
Yes, exactly. We have a lot of, we do have a lot of people that move down here in our city, because we are referred to as Military City USA because of the bases that we do have. And back in the 90s, like in the 80s, we had a lot more. We did have a few more bases, and they've closed a few of them down. But so we have that commonality amongst the 3 of us, is because, we do have, some family that were military, and that's just a part of, living here within the city, and that's a nice thing. So, and we are very respectful and, thankful for the service of the first responders, for those that are in the military, because that's just a large community that we have here. And a lot of people move here because of the fact of them being on orders and things like that.
And that's how I actually got to move here.
Oh, really?
Because my dad was ordered to.
And I was going to say, I was like, you're a military brat, but you didn't move around too much. You moved around
not too much, because we've actually lived in Okinawa for so long. But my dad's like, we need to bring our kids to the U.S. because I might have been born in Okinawa, me and my brothers, but we were born on the American base, which made us an American citizen.
Gotcha.
So that automatically made us an American citizen. Now, if we were born after 1972, then we would have had dual citizenship, and so that didn't happen. All 3 of us, we were born before 1971. So yeah,
that's interesting.
That's
and
fun fact.
Learn something new today.
Yes, and when my mom moved to the U.S., she never became an American citizen. She just had her green card. She was married to my dad, and she just kept up with that. She wanted to be an American citizen, but she never made it. So yeah, and my sister-in-law actually is not a American citizen as well. So I have a few people in my family that's not American citizens. I am, but yeah.
Yeah, my mom was also, so she was born, my dad was born in Mexico across the border, but because my grandmother was an American citizen, right, so he was an American citizen, but my mom was born in Mexico, and so, you know, married my dad, and so it wasn't, she had her green card for years, right, like for the longest time, and then it wasn't until then my dad got ill before he passed that he was like, you need to become an American citizen, because when I pass, I don't want you having any issues.
Yeah.
And so I need you to become an American citizen. So my mom studied and she got her citizenship and all that. So yeah.
And then in my case, as far as my grandparents are concerned, they were also born here. So, however, they did not speak English or very little English. And they had the opposite. I used to, they would get made fun of, my grandmother would get made fun of if she spoke English because it was also cut up English, you know. But she understood a lot more than she would let on, or people would know. And back in our days, we lived in blended families, and we kind of went away from that for a while. And then now it kind of looks like the blended families are back. But we had my grandparents, which are my paternal grandparents, my dad's parents, lived with us up until I think I was like 10 years old, and they lived in the same household. We had a small house, a very small house. And they lived in the same household as us. So, so if you can imagine the dynamics that we had, if you can imagine how things were, who was the boss, who was in charge, whose kitchen it was, we had all of that stuff going on, yeah. But it was, growing up, it was normal and natural. You know, it wasn't anything that was different until you got old enough to understand that you know, not everybody was fortunate enough to have their grandparents live with you. Yeah. But that's one of the unique things that we all find here in our little town.
How you mentioned where when you were growing up, it was looked badly upon, right? Like if you spoke Spanish, and some people, because you didn't want to have like some type of discrimination because you were Hispanic and you were speaking it. Growing up, my mom, she was the one that spoke Spanish, and my dad spoke to me in English. So I would respond to my mom in English, but my mom spoke to me in Spanish, and I had to learn Spanish. That was actually my first language. That was the first language that I actually spoke, was Spanish. And I had to continue to be fluent in it, because in order for me to communicate with my grandmother and my great aunt, because they were sisters, they lived together. And so in order for me to communicate with them, I had to speak the language, right? Because they knew your basic words of, sí, oh, yes, you know, hello, you know, and so they knew only those basic words. But in order for us to communicate, we had to speak their language, right? And I'm thankful for that, because those are different memories. It's part of our culture, and I was able to hear my grandmother's stories, whereas like I had a couple of cousins that didn't learn it, like, you know, and so they never got to hear those stories from my grandmother and my great aunt, because my, you know, uncle and aunt never really, you know, encouraged them to really like learn it and speak it. So they just had like very minimal like conversation, you know. So I'm just thankful for that, because, and my mom always would tell me, in Spanish, she would say, la persona que habla dos idiomas vale por dos. So the person that speaks two languages, it's a double. You're getting two people for one, right? Because that you're able to have speak two languages, and it just presents a lot of opportunities. And so for me, that helped me out, especially in the line of work that I was in. And so it allowed me a lot of opportunity for growth and travel, really, especially for travel, because they need a Spanish speaker. Okay, call Laura. And I was like, I'm on the plane. Where do you want me to go? Right. And so it was a lot of fun. And so I'm really thankful for that. So, but yeah, it's nice having that language, and at least that, you know, we learned it, and that's just part of our culture here, especially because we have so many people that come from different parts, because of, especially those that are in the military, and then, you know, they're here for a few years, and some like it and then end up staying here.
Right.
Yeah, like me.
Yes.
I'm one of the ones.
Exactly. And we're thankful that she stayed here.
Yeah, I'm the only one out of my family that's here. I'm by myself, actually.
Oh,
so
really?
yeah, when I got a divorce, it was really tough, because I had 2 kids, and I had to like separate myself from my ex-husband's side, and he had his whole family here, and it was just me, and that was one of the hardest things that I went through for 4 years without no family, you know.
How far are they from here?
My brothers are both 5 hours away.
Wow. Okay.
So even though if we're both in Texas, it's still 5 hours
Yes.
away to go visit them.
And
By
just
plane.
so you,
By
driving.
By driving.
So I usually drove over.
Okay.
and so just so you all know that even though we live in the same town, I'm 45 minutes from Laura.
She's 45 minutes away, but it took me an hour and a half to get here today.
Because of traffic.
Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I guess I'm probably the same.
You're 35 minutes away from me.
From
Because
35.
yeah.
Okay, so
remember,
we're a little bit closer.
I was going to
yeah.
drive you one of the days.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're just 35 minutes away.
just 35
and you're like
minutes.
35, and then you're
Yeah.
40.
40,
Well,
45
supposed to be 40.
So they're a little bit, we're a little bit closer, they're a little bit closer, but still because of our town,
Yes.
it's land-wise, it's a large
It's
town.
spread out. Yeah,
so
it's
just-
not like Houston where everything's right there.
Yeah.
We're more spread
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not as
definitely.
big as Houston. We're a big city, but small town feel is how
Small
they describe
town,
us.
exactly.
Yeah, but not as big as Dallas and Houston, and hopefully we can keep it that way.
Yes,
Hopefully we can keep it that way.
we like to keep that homey
Yeah.
feel, which is a lot of times why some of our sports heroes, because we do have some sports heroes who live here, who have chosen to live here, or who have chosen to retire back here, who've
yes.
gone on to
Yeah.
bigger teams, and they've come back here to stay here and retire here, and that's one of our town's favorite little tidbits to have.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. And we do have some celebrities also too that live out here in
do.
areas, like Mr. George Strait. Yes,
He lives
absolutely.
close.
Hopefully you enjoyed this little intro so you can learn a little bit more about the Tres Amigas. And so now that you're familiar with who we are, we thought it would be just fun to kind of talk about who our first was, right? Let's spill the tea,
Who's our
amigas.
first?
Let's spill the tea as to who our first was, especially when it came to purchasing like luxury handbags. And so we thought it would be fun to share that with you guys.
Dining in Gucci with Mrs. Versace. Spend that, custom made this squared.